Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is December 19th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. We got BC, Washington, Oregon here. If you see some clouds offshore, that is going to be our next rainmaker. It's a fairly weak system. We got a couple more weak ones coming in here, but then we have some more robust frontal systems as we move on in towards the Christmas Eve period and potentially thereafter. We'll take a look at that in some detail as we go through the video here this morning. Right now out there, look at that, 51 degrees in Seattle, fairly balmy, 51 degrees in Portland. There is some fog out there. Look, I think that Salem, yes, is still a quarter mile out there, so slow down. Of course, if you're in that fog, you can see right now Medford at a quarter mile reporting fog as well. There are some gale warnings out over the open waters. Notice that does not touch the coastal areas. Some light precipitation moving up across the region, a little bit better amounts here across some of southwest BC. So take a look at Seattle. There is a flood watch out there right now. This is just from some of the rainfall that's been falling. Not too big of a deal. Flood warning does include, I believe that is Potlatch there, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, this Cocomas River at Potlatch, currently in moderate flood stage. It's receding slowly as we speak. Portland, not much going on. Looking at Spokane, they are talking about the chance of some of these systems moving in here over the next few days. Again, I'll show you more on that here in a moment. That was updated last night. There's some freezing fog out there. You can see it doesn't include places like Rigby across some of eastern Idaho. There's this Pocatello, Idaho National Weather Service. And this is Pendleton, not much going on. So taking a look at where we are now, or actually let's scroll forward a little bit more. And this is where we are right about now. And you can see that light precipitation brushing the area. Some mountain snows the further north you go across some of BC. And as we go through the day today, you'll see this is tonight. There goes that weak frontal system passing through. Another fairly weak system, relatively speaking. It brings another period of precipitation. Some of the coastal areas here, it doesn't look like much for Seattle, but some mountain snows. And then a stronger system arrives as we go through Saturday. See that frontal system moving up across Oregon. This is Saturday morning. Here we go, late morning and then afternoon hours. Some mountain snows occurring with that. A little bit blustery out there, but not too bad. And then we go on in towards the 22nd. Yet another frontal system. Just seems like one after the next. And then we have a fairly robust system that's been showing up repeatedly in the extended run as we go through the 23rd. This would be the night of the 23rd here. You can see a fairly deep low off the coastal regions here. There's Vancouver Island. And this shows some decent wind gusts here. The European have been hinting at that. I'll show you more on that here in a bit, but that would bring some mountain snows and a potent frontal system as well. And very windy conditions here across Vancouver Island and some of western BC. And so we'll have to watch the track of that storm very closely. And then after that, we may remain active. I'll take a look at the extended here in a moment. But if we take a look at the European, so in the meantime, we're not looking at any big windstorm or anything like that until at least Christmas Eve. And then I'll show you that system. Here we go. Let's go through the 23rd. Here we go into the night of the 23rd. And you can see this potent system out over the coastal waters. Look at some of these east winds coming through the Cascades here. And some strong southerlies coming across the terrain of Oregon, southeast, known as the Southeast Sucker event, maybe across some of the northwest interior, Salish Sea, straight at Georgia. And again, strong winds would be the case for Vancouver Island if this were to verify. But as we go on in through Christmas Eve, you'll see that storm system riding up across the area, and then the next storm systems would be on the way after that. More on that here in a moment. But I wanted to kind of highlight the potential for some of that east wind as we go through very late on the 23rd, actually maybe on the afternoon of the 23rd actually is when those east winds would start, and then kind of pick up as we go through the nighttime hours, and then that would come to a rapid end as we get some southerlies up the Puget Sound and some of western Washington as we go through very early on the 24th. We're looking a little bit far out here, but I just kind of want to draw attention to this a little bit because it's showing some pretty strong winds out of the east direction. This wind here is not a southerly wind for SeaTac. That would be out of the east as well. But again, plenty of time to worry about that. If we take a look at the GFS, it's in fairly good model agreement. There's the initial system here. We got another weak system as we go through Friday. Another more robust frontal system. The GFS has a pretty good pressure gradient actually as this approaches the coastline. So that front is going to pack a punch as we go through the day. Saturday, some mountain snows, and then as we go off in towards the 23rd, yet another system. So just one after another. And then there's that deep low showing up on the GFS, starting to get a little bit better model agreement. You see that deep low right there, and there's Vancouver Island. It doesn't show the same kind of east wind event here that the European does, but we have plenty of time to watch that. Strong frontal system would be associated. And then you can see no rest for the weary, system after system rolling into the region here as we go on in towards the end of the month. Precipitation continuing, and one more storm there to wrap up the end of the year. Who knows? We're looking a little bit far out there into Fantasyland. Now looking at Seattle, you can kind of see that east wind event trying to reach out towards SeaTac a bit there. And again, that would be late, or actually some point on the day on the 23rd through very early morning hours on the 24th. But again, we'll be breaking that down more day by day. And if we take a look here, you can kind of see the Gulf of Alaska vortex here just continuing to spin systems one after the next as we go through the Christmas time period. And it remains active through the end of the year. Keep waiting to see, are we going to get some ridging here, or are we eventually going to switch the troughing back in towards the west coast of North America? Who knows? We'll have to just wait and see at this point. You can see at the extended, maybe that troughing getting a bit closer to the Pacific Northwest there, just grasping at straws at this point. Now, looking at the European ensemble mean, this is on through the end of the year, and I'll show you the precipitation totals for Seattle here in a moment. But you can see the European showing about 4 and about close to 5 inches in the GFS, but much bigger amounts across Vancouver Island, some of the coastal areas, and of course the Cascades. Portland will probably getting 4+ inches out of this as well, and even some precipitation east of the mountains showing up at times. And you can see the rain shadowing here across some of eastern BC. So looking at so far for Seattle, 2.7 inches so far this month. It's about 3 inches off the normal for December. And as we go through the end of the month, we're probably going to be catching up to that, and we may exceed it as well. So we may end up the month of December above average in precipitation. And let me close that ad. You can see we still have some moderate and some considerable avalanche danger here. This is such a good tool, folks, that, if you are out in the backcountry a lot, and, across the higher terrain especially, they give some really good advice, like don't hang out on the slopes with large cracks or into rocky ledges where blocks of snow could fall without warning. And they do talk about the huge amounts of water that we came in with this last few rounds of storm systems there. So yeah, good stuff there. Northwest Avalanche Center. Definitely check it out if you spend time in the backcountry. Doing okay so far as landslide potential is concerned, but after these systems, one after another, and if one of them comes in heavier than what's forecast, or one of them turns into be a fairly impressive atmospheric river, then of course we're going to jump across this line really fast and can have some issues. So we will be watching this. This is landslide potential for the Puget Sound region. You can see individual location areas. When you get to the right of that red line there, based on the axis information, that is when you start to look at landslide potential. And looking out across Pacific Ocean, since we have been doing this for a while, check out the wave-making machine, long duration, strong winds ripping across fetch, time, distance, nice wave action into the Pacific Northwest at times as we roll through the end of December. You can see that just continue on. And then it looks like maybe, who knows, if we look out towards the 28th, maybe a little bit of a break there, but still some pretty significant waves coming towards the coastlines at times. Then a little bit of a break there as we go on into the new year, depending on if we get some ridging or not. And this is the surface wind speeds out there. And again, these waves are a product of these strong winds and time and the fetch over the open water pushing this towards the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, don't turn your back on the ocean. That's just a good general rule to live by during the fall and winter months across the Pacific Northwest. And we're going to have some pretty active periods here as we go on into the end of the year. Now, I wanted to point this out as well. When we have these stronger winds, this is at 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet. These are jet streams, known as these upper level winds here in the atmosphere. And these jet streams form on that pressure, or actually the temperature gradient and the pressure gradient between the equatorial regions and the polar regions there. So you've got these strong jet streams right there, and you can kind of see how that, the subtropical air to the south versus the polar air to the north, and where the strongest gradient is meeting up right there north of the Hawaiian Islands. There's Washington State to the right, and it kind of gives you a nice look at the tropopause potential temperature here on the right as well. The warmer equatorial air on the bottom of this image, and cooler polar air to the north. And if we take a look at 39,000 feet, this is the exact same time. You can see where that jet stream has set up right where that greatest temperature gradient is between the equatorial regions and the polar regions, pointed at the Pacific Northwest. So future storm development may be occurring as we drive this gradient back towards our region. Now, 6 to 10 day temperature outlook above average. You can see the precipitation. This should not be a surprise. Above average signal is clearly there. 8 to 14 day, the entire lower 48 above average chances, and 8 to 14 day, again, signal shouldn't be a surprise. But anyway, slowing down for a little bit here for a couple of days, but we do have some more active weather coming up here, and we continue these systems one after another, and eventually bring in a more robust atmospheric river, which we have the potential to do so as we go through the end of the year. We could be looking at some flooding potential at times, and we will be continuing to look at that day by day. Otherwise, I hope you guys are having a good day. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.